Valerie Dawson was always the girl with a plan. Raised by a single mother in a small town, she had clawed her way up the social ladder through sheer grit, intelligence, and hard work. After graduating with top honors in finance from a prestigious university, Valerie had one goal: to secure a position at one of the most exclusive investment firms in the city, Knight and Ryder Financial Group. A job there was her ticket to success, a way to leave behind her modest roots and build the life she'd always dreamed of. On her first day at Knight and Ryder, the sheer luxury of the place overwhelms her. The office is perched on the top floors of a skyscraper with floor-to-ceiling windows that showcase the entire city skyline. The employees, dressed in designer suits, are polished, elite, and mostly born into privilege. Valerie, in her modest but well-kept outfit, feels like an outsider from the moment she steps in. Despite her nerves, she's determined to succeed. Her first major assignment is working under the firm's most important client, Evan Montenegro, a powerful real estate mogul with a multi-billion-dollar empire. His name sends chills through the corporate world, but it's what people don't know about him that makes him dangerous. Evan Montenegro is a man of two faces. By day, he's a respected businessman, negotiating high-stakes deals and managing a global real estate empire. But by night, he runs one of the most powerful underground crime syndicates in the city. Born into the Montenegro family, a dynasty with deep ties to the criminal underworld, Evan grew up navigating between both worlds. Cold, calculating, and ruthless, Evan always preferred the order and control of his corporate persona, but family obligations have kept him tied to the darker side of his life. His reputation in both realms is ironclad. He's the man who never loses, in business or in crime. But Evan has no interest in relationships or emotions, seeing them only as vulnerabilities. And Valerie is just another pawn in his carefully constructed world, someone to manage his affairs at Knight and Ryder. Little does Evan know, Valerie is about to challenge everything he thought he knew about himself. Valerie spends her first few days at Knight and Ryder feeling like she's barely treading water. Everyone around her is sharp, experienced, and cutthroat. She's assigned to work on one of Evan Montenegro's largest real estate deals, and she knows it's her opportunity to make a mark. As she dives into the project, her curiosity about Montenegro grows. She's heard rumors. Some say he's ruthless in business, while others whisper about his connections to something far darker. But to Valerie, he's just another powerful client she has to impress. The first meeting between Valerie and Evan doesn't go as planned. She's in the middle of preparing her notes when he enters the room, a tall, imposing figure in a perfectly tailored suit. His presence immediately fills the space. His dark hair is swept back neatly, and his intense gray eyes seem to scrutinize everything and everyone around him. Valerie feels a sudden jolt of nervousness, but she keeps her composure. "Miss Dawson, is it?" Evan asks, his voice deep and authoritative. "Yes, Mr. Montenegro. It's a pleasure to finally meet you," Valerie responds, extending her hand. Evan glances at her hand briefly before shaking it with a firm grip. His eyes never leave hers, and she feels as though he's seeing right through her, assessing her every move. The meeting proceeds smoothly, though Valerie senses a tension in the air. Evan is direct, never wasting a word, and his presence commands the room. As the conversation flows, he becomes increasingly impressed with Valerie's insight and analytical skills, even though he doesn't show it. Behind his cool exterior, Evan notices something different about her. Something genuine, unlike the calculating people he's used to in both his worlds. As the meeting concludes, Evan remains stoic. "We'll continue this tomorrow. I expect your team to have all the projections ready by then." Valerie nods confidently, though inside, her nerves are frayed. Once Evan leaves the room, her heart finally slows. There was something about him, something dangerous, but also intriguing. A few weeks into her work with Evan Montenegro, Valerie begins to notice strange things. Meetings are often scheduled late at night, and he frequently steps out for personal matters at odd hours. Once, when she was waiting for him outside his office, she overheard a conversation between Evan and a man named Mark Leone, who seemed to be more than just a business rival. Mark Leone, the head of the Leone family, controls the second-largest criminal empire in the city. His ambition knows no bounds, and he has been eyeing Evan's territory for years. Mark is charismatic but ruthless, and where Evan keeps his criminal dealings hidden behind a legitimate front, Mark revels in his power and status within the underworld. The rivalry between the two men is fierce, and it's clear to Valerie from the snippets she overhears that things between them are more than just about business. Valerie grows more curious about Evan's life outside the office. Despite the professional facade he maintains at night and Ryder, there's something undeniably mysterious about him. One night, after a late meeting, she sees him walking out with a group of men who don't look like business associates. They're dressed in leather jackets, and one of them has a visible gun holster. She tries to push her suspicions aside. Surely Evan wouldn't be involved in anything illegal, would he? But the more time she spends around him, the more she realizes that Evan's life is far from ordinary. His world is one of power, control, and danger. Valerie's curiosity eventually gets the better of her. One evening, after an intense day of work, she decides to follow Evan. She watches from a distance as he leaves the office and heads toward an upscale restaurant, a place known for attracting the city's elite. As she keeps her distance, she sees him enter a private room with Mark Leone. The air between the two men is thick with tension. Through the slightly open door, Valerie overhears snippets of their conversation. Something about territory, a deal gone wrong, and a warning from Mark. "This city can only belong to one of us, Montenegro," Mark says coldly. "If you think you can keep holding on to your precious empire, you're mistaken. Sooner or later, you'll slip, and when you do, I'll be there to take everything." Evan's voice is calm, but deadly. "You've tried before, Leone. I'm still here." Valerie's heart pounds in her chest as she quietly slips away, overwhelmed by the revelation. The rumors about Evan are true. He's more than just a powerful businessman. He's a player in a dangerous game that stretches far beyond corporate boardrooms. As Valerie processes this new information, she wonders if she should confront Evan, or if she's better off keeping her distance. But she's already in too deep, both professionally and emotionally. There's something about Evan that draws her in, despite the danger lurking behind his stoic exterior. In the days that follow, Valerie's interactions with Evan become more charged. She tries to keep things professional, but there's an undeniable tension between them. Every glance, every word exchanged feels weighted with unspoken truths. Valerie knows she should be careful. Evan Montenegro is dangerous, in more ways than one. But she can't deny the growing attraction she feels for him. And Evan, though guarded and cautious, finds himself increasingly drawn to Valerie. She's different from anyone he's met before. Smart, independent, and unafraid to challenge him. But in his world, love is a weakness, and weakness is something he can't afford. As their worlds begin to collide, both Evan and Valerie will have to decide how far they're willing to go for what they want, whether it's power, love, or freedom from the shadows that define them. Weeks pass, and Valerie's life begins to change in ways she never anticipated. Her once clear ambition to succeed in the corporate world is now clouded by the mystery surrounding Evan Montenegro. She spends more time with him, working closely on his real estate projects, but the tension between them has shifted from professional to something far more personal. Every meeting, every interaction, feels electric, charged with an unspoken attraction they both refuse to acknowledge. One evening, after a particularly grueling negotiation with a high-profile client, Evan suggests they grab a drink. Valerie hesitates but agrees. They head to a private rooftop bar, far away from the prying eyes of the corporate world. The atmosphere is intimate, the city's skyline glittering in the background as they sip on their drinks in silence. It's the first time they've been alone outside the office, and the air between them is thick with anticipation. "I see the way you look at me," Evan says suddenly, his voice low and smooth. His eyes lock onto hers, intense and unreadable. "You have questions." Valerie's heart skips a beat. She wants to deny it, to pretend she hasn't been thinking about him, about the secrets he's hiding, but she can't. "I do," she admits, her voice barely a whisper. "But I'm not sure I want the answers." Evan leans back in his chair, studying her. Smart girl. Some answers come with consequences. Is that a threat? She asks, her pulse quickening. No, Evan says softly, his eyes never leaving hers. It's a warning. The conversation lingers in the air, unresolved. But that night marks a turning point. Neither of them says it out loud, but they've crossed a line. A line between professional and personal, between safety and danger. From that moment on, things between them are different. The days that follow are filled with a strange new dynamic. Valerie finds herself drawn deeper into Evan's world, both professionally and emotionally. She begins accompanying him to high-profile events, meetings, and private dinners where he negotiates deals that are far more complex than they appear on the surface. And though she knows she should keep her distance, she can't help but be intrigued by the man behind the cold exterior. But the deeper she gets, the more she notices the shadows lurking around him. Men in dark suits who seem more like bodyguards than business associates. The way Evan disappears for hours at a time, only to return with an edge to his voice and a darkness in his eyes. And then there's the constant presence of Mark Leone, his rival. Mark Leone isn't just a competitor in the real estate business. He's a dangerous adversary in the criminal world as well. He has made it clear that he wants to take everything Evan has built, both legally and illegally. And now, Mark sees Valerie as a potential weak spot in Evan's armor. One evening, Valerie receives an unexpected visit from Mark. She's alone at the office, working late, when he enters without knocking. Dressed in a sharp suit, Mark is handsome but carries an unsettling air of danger. "Miss Dawson," he greets her smoothly, flashing a charming smile. "I've been meaning to have a word with you." Valerie stiffens, her heart pounding. "What do you want?" Mark saunters closer, his eyes gleaming with amusement. "I'm just concerned about you. You're getting too close to Evan Montenegro, and that's not a safe place to be." "I can take care of myself," Valerie replies, trying to keep her voice steady. Mark chuckles softly. "I'm sure you can. But Evan's world, it's darker than you realize. He's not who you think he is." "I know enough," Valerie says, her eyes narrowing. "And whatever game you're playing, I'm not interested." Mark's smile fades, and his tone turns icy. "You're in over your head, Miss Dawson. Consider this a friendly warning. Stay away from Evan, or you might find yourself caught in something you can't escape." As he leaves, Valerie's hands tremble. She knows Mark is trying to manipulate her, but his words linger in her mind. What exactly is Evan involved in? And how deep does it go? After Mark's visit, Valerie can't shake the feeling that she's being watched. Everywhere she goes, she feels eyes on her. Her phone buzzes constantly with cryptic messages from unknown numbers, and her apartment has been searched. It's clear that Mark is serious about his warning. Valerie's trust in Evan begins to falter. She starts to wonder if she's in over her head. Just as Mark said, should she walk away before it's too late? But every time she considers leaving, she finds herself drawn back to Evan. His magnetic presence, his quiet intensity. There's something between them that she can't ignore, even if it's dangerous. One night, she decides to confront him. She goes to his penthouse, unannounced, and finds him sitting alone in his dimly lit living room, a glass of whiskey in his hand. His eyes are darker than usual, and there's a tension in his posture that she hasn't seen before. "You need to tell me the truth," Valerie says, her voice trembling, "about everything." Evan looks at her for a long moment before setting his glass down. "What do you think you know?" "I know about Mark. I know about the deals. I've seen enough to understand that you're not just a businessman, Evan. You're involved in something bigger, something dangerous." Evan rises from his seat, walking slowly toward her. "And what are you going to do with that information, Valerie? Walk away?" Valerie hesitates. She should walk away, but instead, she takes a step closer to him. "No," she whispers. "I'm not walking away." Evan's hand reaches for her, gently brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. His touch is surprisingly tender, and for a moment, Valerie forgets about the danger surrounding them. All she can think about is the way he looks at her. as if she's the only person who's ever seen him for who he truly is. "I warned you, Valerie," he murmurs, his voice low. "You shouldn't get involved in my world." "I don't care," she breathes, her heart pounding. "I'm already in." Without another word, Evan pulls her into a kiss. It's passionate, urgent, like he's been holding back for too long. Valerie melts into him, her mind spinning as she surrenders to the moment. But even as they lose themselves in each other, there's an unspoken truth lingering between them. Their relationship is a dangerous game, and neither of them can afford to lose. After that night, everything changes. Valerie and Evan's relationship crosses from professional to deeply personal. They spend more time together, both in and out of the office, and Valerie finds herself slipping further into Evan's world. But the closer they become, the more dangerous things get. Mark Leone isn't backing down. His interest in Valerie grows, and he starts making moves to sabotage Evan's business deals. One day, Valerie receives a threatening note left on her desk at work. "Stay away from Evan, or you'll regret it." Evan, noticing her growing anxiety, confronts her. "What's going on?" he demands. "You've been on edge for days." Valerie hesitates, but eventually shows him the note. Evan's expression hardens as he reads it, and for the first time, she sees the full extent of his rage. "Mark's getting bolder," he mutters, his voice laced with fury. "He thinks he can use you to get to me." "What are you going to do?" Valerie asks, her voice trembling. Evan's jaw clenches. "I'll deal with him. But you need to understand something, Valerie. Being with me means you're part of this now. You're in the lion's den, and there's no going back." Valerie's heart pounds in her chest. She knows he's right. She's no longer just an innocent bystander. She's a target. But despite the danger, she can't walk away from Evan. There's something about him, something deeper than the crime and the power. She's seen glimpses of the man behind the cold exterior, and she can't let him go. "I'm not afraid," Valerie says, her voice steady. Evan pulls her close, his hand resting on the small of her back. "You should be," he whispers, his lips brushing against her ear. "Because if anything happens to you, I won't be able to control what I do." From that moment on, Evan becomes even more protective of Valerie. He assigns men to follow her, to guard her at all times. But as the danger around them grows, so does the tension between Evan and Mark. Their rivalry has reached a boiling point, and soon, something is going to break. Valerie knows she's in over her head, but there's no turning back now. She's fallen for Evan Montenegro, a man who walks a fine line between power and destruction. And as they navigate the treacherous waters of the criminal underworld, Valerie begins to wonder if love can truly survive in a world built on secrets and lies. As weeks turn into months, the relationship between Valerie and Evan grows deeper, but so does the tension surrounding them. The lavish parties and high-stakes meetings become a blur of luxury and danger. Valerie finds herself entangled in a world she never anticipated, moving effortlessly between the elegant facade of corporate America and the gritty underbelly of the criminal world. Yet, every moment spent with Evan feels intoxicating, and she revels in the thrill of their connection. However, the underlying tension is palpable. Evan has become increasingly paranoid about Mark Leone's next move. He keeps his distance from Valerie during business meetings, carefully guarding her from any fallout. Yet, she's not blind to the danger that looms. Evan's protective nature comes with its own set of rules, ones that Valerie is beginning to chafe against. She is no longer just a pawn in his game. She's a player, and she wants to make her own moves. One evening, Evan invites Valerie to one of his exclusive charity galas, a gathering of the city's elite. It's an opportunity for Evan to showcase his philanthropic side, but it's also a chance for Valerie to witness the power dynamics at play in his world. As they enter the grand hall, she's struck by the opulence surrounding them. Chandeliers glittering above, elegantly dressed guests mingling, and the soft notes of a string quartet playing in the background. Evan's presence commands the room. He introduces Valerie to influential figures, showcasing her as a rising star in the corporate world. But beneath the polished surface, Valerie senses the tension simmering just below. Mark Leone is there, lurking in the shadows. Their eyes meet across the room, and Valerie feels a shiver run down her spine. Mark approaches them, all charm and swagger. "Evan, always a pleasure," he says, his voice smooth like silk. "And who do we have here?" "Valerie Dawson," she replies coolly, extending her hand. Mark takes it, his grip firm. "Ah, the one who has captured our friend's attention. You should be careful, my dear. In this world, you never know who you can trust." Valerie feels a chill at his words, but she refuses to show weakness. "I'm not afraid of the likes of you, Mr. Leone." Evan's eyes flicker with approval, but also a warning. As Mark walks away, Valerie can sense Evan's tension. "I don't want you talking to him," he warns, his voice low and serious. "Are you going to treat me like a child?" she retorts, frustration bubbling up. "I can handle myself, Evan." Evan runs a hand through his hair, a sign of his growing frustration. "I know you can, but this isn't just a game. Mark is dangerous, and he won't hesitate to use you against me." Valerie's heart races. The stakes are higher than she ever imagined, but she's not willing to back down. "I can help you, Evan. I want to be part of this." He studies her for a moment, his expression conflicted. "You don't know what you're asking for." But Valerie is determined. Their connection deepens, and despite the looming danger, she feels alive in a way she never has before. As Valerie becomes more entrenched in Evan's world, the stakes continue to rise. They work late into the nights, strategizing on business deals while also navigating the dangerous waters of Evan's criminal ties. But the pressure mounts as Mark Leone's threats become more direct. He starts sabotaging Evan's deals, leaving cryptic messages and making veiled threats. One night, Valerie receives a frantic phone call from Evan while she's at home. "Meet me at the warehouse on 5th Avenue. It's urgent," he says, his voice tense. Valerie's heart races. She rushes to the location, a nondescript building in an industrial area of the city. As she arrives, she sees Evan standing outside, his expression serious. "You shouldn't be here," he says, pulling her aside. "What's going on?" she asks, her voice trembling with anxiety. Evan glances around, his eyes scanning the area. Mark's making his move. "I need to handle this without you getting involved." "Evan, I can help," she insists. "You can't keep pushing me away like this." "I'm trying to protect you," he snaps, the tension palpable. Before they can argue further, a sleek black car pulls up, and Mark steps out, flanked by 2 men. "Evan, so nice of you to invite me to the party," Mark says with a smirk, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Valerie feels the air shift as Evan's demeanor changes. He stands tall, exuding confidence. "What do you want, Mark?" "I want what's rightfully mine," Mark replies, his gaze shifting to Valerie. "And it seems you found yourself a new toy, Evan. But you know how dangerous playthings can be." "Leave her out of this," Evan growls, stepping forward, a protective instinct taking over. Mark's smile widens. "Oh, but she's already involved, isn't she? Tell me, Valerie, do you really know what you're getting into with him? He's not just a businessman. He's a criminal, a murderer." Valerie's heart races as she processes Mark's words. The truth of Evan's world crashes down on her, and she looks at Evan, searching for answers. Is that true? Evan's eyes darken. "I'm not a murderer, Valerie. I do what I have to do to protect what's mine." Before she can respond, Mark laughs. "You can't protect her from the truth, Evan. I'm just the one delivering the message. So, what's it going to be? Are you going to keep playing the hero, or are you going to let her go?" The tension between the three of them is thick, and Valerie feels trapped. She wants to defend Evan, but doubt begins to creep into her mind. The reality of their situation hits her hard. She's in love with a man who lives in a world of shadows and lies, and the stakes are far higher than she ever imagined. The confrontation with Mark leaves Valerie shaken. As she returns home, she grapples with the revelations about Evan's life. She has seen his ruthless side when it comes to business, but the implications of his criminal ties weigh heavily on her. She spends sleepless nights wrestling with her thoughts, torn between her feelings for Evan and the fear of the world he inhabits. In the following days, Valerie tries to maintain a semblance of normalcy at work, but her mind is elsewhere. She avoids Evan, giving him space to handle the fallout from the confrontation with Mark. But the silence between them only amplifies the tension, leaving Valerie feeling more isolated. When they finally do meet again, it's in the office, where Evan's demeanor is colder than she's ever seen. "You're avoiding me," he states, his eyes narrowed. "I needed time to think," she replies, crossing her arms defensively. "You didn't tell me the truth, Evan." His expression hardens. "I told you I'm not a murderer. I protect what's mine. You don't understand the choices I've had to make." Valerie shakes her head, frustration boiling over. "You think I don't understand? I've been pulled into this world, and I'm trying to make sense of it, but you keep shutting me out." Evan's jaw clenches, and she can see the internal struggle warring within him. "I'm trying to protect you from this life. From Mark, from everything." "I can handle myself," she shouts, her voice echoing in the empty office. "Can you?" He snaps back, his anger matching hers. "Can you really? Because I don't want to see you hurt because of my choices." They stand there, eyes locked, both breathing heavily. The air between them crackles with unresolved tension, and then, just as suddenly, the anger dissipates, leaving behind a heavy silence. "I don't want to lose you, Valerie," Evan says quietly, his voice filled with emotion. Valerie's heart softens at his admission. "Then don't shut me out. Let me in." In that moment, they both know they have reached a breaking point. Their relationship is at a crossroads, and they must decide whether to continue down this dangerous path together or part ways to protect themselves. With their emotions laid bare, Valerie and Evan reach a tentative agreement. They will confront the reality of their situation together. It's a new beginning, one filled with uncertainty but also hope. However, as they navigate the aftermath of their confrontation, the pressure from Mark Leone only intensifies. Evan starts to devise a plan to outmaneuver Mark, using the leverage he has in the corporate world. He enlists Valerie's help, making her an integral part of the strategy. Their collaboration reignites the passion between them, and Valerie begins to feel like more than just a pawn in a game. She's an active participant, and the thrill of danger adds an intoxicating edge to their relationship. But the darkness is never far away. One afternoon, as Valerie leaves the office, she notices a figure watching her from across the street. It's Mark, his expression inscrutable as he leans casually against a lamppost. She feels a chill run down her spine, but she tries to shake it off, focusing instead on the adrenaline of the upcoming confrontation with Evan. They meet later that evening at a secluded location, a rooftop overlooking the city skyline. The atmosphere is charged with anticipation. "We have to confront Mark head-on," Evan says, his eyes fierce. "We can't keep playing defense." Valerie nods, feeling a surge of determination. "I'm with you. Let's end this." Evan pulls her close, their foreheads touching as he gazes deeply into her eyes. "No matter what happens, I won't let anything happen to you." As they prepare for the showdown, Valerie feels the weight of their plan, the thrill of the unknown ahead. But in the back of her mind, a nagging fear persists. They are entering a game that could change everything, and the stakes are higher than ever. With their resolve solidified, they step off the rooftop, ready to face whatever challenges await them. The night is dark, but together, they feel invincible. However, as they move forward, both know that the path ahead is fraught with danger, and their love will be tested in ways they never anticipated. The air is electric with anticipation as Valerie and Evan prepare for their showdown with Mark Leone. They've devised a plan to confront him at a high-profile charity gala that he'll be attending, knowing it's the perfect opportunity to catch him off guard. The event promises a sea of influential faces, and while it offers a cover, it also increases the stakes. The luxury of the gala is a stark contrast to the danger that looms. Valerie chooses a stunning red gown that clings to her curves, feeling empowered as she looks at herself in the mirror. She knows she'll have to be on her game tonight, exuding confidence and strength. When Evan arrives, dressed in a sharp black suit, he looks at her with admiration mixed with concern. "You look incredible," he says, his voice low and sincere, making her heart flutter. "Thanks," she replies, her confidence bolstered by his praise. "But we need to focus on Mark." "Agreed," Evan replies, adjusting his cufflinks. "Remember, stay close to me, and don't engage unless I say so." Valerie nods, her heart racing. As they arrive at the gala, the opulence surrounding them is overwhelming. The venue is adorned with chandeliers, and laughter echoes off the walls. But Valerie can't shake the sense of danger lurking just beneath the surface. As they mingle with guests, Valerie scans the crowd for Mark. She spots him across the room, chatting with a group of wealthy patrons, his charismatic smile masking the menace that lies beneath. With a deep breath, she takes Evan's hand, grounding herself. "It's time," Evan says, leading her toward Mark. They weave through the crowd, Valerie's heart pounding louder with each step. As they approach, Mark's gaze flickers toward them, a predatory smile spreading across his face. "Evan, Valerie," he greets them with feigned warmth. "What a lovely surprise. I didn't expect to see you here." "Cut the pleasantries, Mark," Evan says, his tone sharp. "We need to talk." Mark's eyes narrow, and the jovial atmosphere shifts as tension hangs in the air. "Oh? About what? Your little business setbacks? Or perhaps about how your new girlfriend is getting in over her head?" Valerie feels the anger bubbling inside her but restrains herself, staying close to Evan. "We're not afraid of you, Mark," she states boldly. "We know what you're trying to do." Mark chuckles, a sinister sound that sends chills down her spine. "Do you really think you can intimidate me? I've been playing this game long before you two started dating. I can ruin you, Valerie. You're a pawn in a game you don't even understand." Evan steps closer, his jaw clenched. "You don't scare us, Mark. We're taking control of this situation. You need to back off." "Or what?" Mark taunts, leaning closer. "You'll threaten me with your little business connections? Newsflash, I'm untouchable. You're nothing but a fading star in this city." Valerie takes a deep breath, summoning all her courage. "You're wrong, Mark. We're not going anywhere, and we won't let you manipulate us any longer." Mark's expression darkens, and the tension crackles like electricity. "You'll regret those words, Valerie. This isn't over." He turns away, but not before Valerie catches a glimpse of the dark fury in his eyes. The weight of their confrontation hangs in the air, and as they break away, Valerie's heart races. They've taken a step into a dangerous game, and there's no turning back now. In the days following the gala, the aftermath of the confrontation with Mark begins to unfold. The atmosphere between Valerie and Evan is charged with tension and unspoken fears. While they celebrated their small victory, the threat of Mark looms larger than ever. Valerie returns to work, her mind occupied with thoughts of the confrontation. She pours herself into her projects, trying to drown out the anxiety gnawing at her. Yet, despite her efforts, the unease remains. Evan seems distant, and their conversations have become strained, filled with unsaid words and heavy silences. One afternoon, Valerie receives an unexpected visitor at her office, Mark. He strides in with an air of confidence, his smile a mask for the chaos he's about to unleash. "Valerie," he greets, his voice smooth and condescending. "How lovely to see you again. I thought we should have a little chat." Valerie's heart races as she tries to keep her composure. "What do you want, Mark?" "Oh, just a friendly conversation," he replies, stepping closer, invading her personal space. "I'm worried about you, you know. You're getting involved in a world that's far too dangerous for someone like you." She stands her ground, anger flaring inside her. "I can handle myself, Mark. I'm not afraid of you." He laughs, a chilling sound that sends shivers down her spine. "You should be. You're playing with fire, and I have a feeling you're going to get burned. You see, Evan is blinded by love, and love can make people do foolish things." Valerie clenches her fists, her heart pounding. If you think I'll back down because of your threats, you're mistaken. I won't let you intimidate me. Mark leans in closer, lowering his voice. You think you're so brave, but the truth is, you're nothing more than collateral damage in a game you don't understand. You're in over your head, sweetheart. As he turns to leave, Valerie feels a surge of anger and defiance. Don't you dare underestimate me, Mark. I won't let you destroy what I have with Evan. With that, Mark smirks and walks out, leaving Valerie shaken but more determined than ever. She knows she has to warn Evan about Mark's increasing aggression and the threats he poses. Valerie's resolve strengthens as she decides to confront Evan about Mark's recent visit. That evening, she invites him over to her apartment, hoping to break through the distance that's grown between them. When Evan arrives, he seems more tense than ever, a storm of emotions brewing beneath the surface. Hey, she greets him, attempting a smile. I wanted to talk about Mark. He runs a hand through his hair, his expression tight. What about him? He came to see me today, Valerie admits, feeling a knot form in her stomach. He's escalating, Evan. He threatened me. Evan's expression darkens, and he steps closer, a protective instinct igniting. What did he say? He said I'm collateral damage in this game, she replies, her voice steady but laced with emotion. He's trying to intimidate me, to drive a wedge between us. Evan's jaw tightens, and his anger is palpable. I won't let him do that. You're not collateral damage to me, Valerie. You're everything. She feels a wave of warmth at his words, but doubt still lingers. But he's right about one thing. We're playing a dangerous game. What if he decides to go after you? Evan shakes his head. I can handle myself. I've been dealing with scum like Mark for years. But you're the one I care about. I need you to stay safe. Valerie steps closer, her heart racing. I want to help you, Evan. I want to fight against him alongside you. We're stronger together. His eyes soften, and she can see the conflict in his expression. This isn't just about you and me anymore. Mark is dangerous. I can't risk losing you. But I'm not going anywhere, she insists, her voice firm. I'm all in, Evan. I love you, and I won't stand by while he tries to destroy us. He looks at her, and in that moment, the walls he's built around himself begin to crumble. I love you too, Valerie, but this is a world you don't understand. There's a lot at stake, and I can't let anything happen to you. The tension between them shifts, and they share a passionate kiss, the fear and uncertainty melting away for a brief moment. But as they pull apart, the reality of their situation looms over them. I'll do whatever it takes to protect you, Evan promises, determination lighting up his eyes. I'll stand by your side, Valerie replies, her voice unwavering. We'll face this together. They spend the rest of the evening strategizing, laying out their plan to confront Mark once and for all. As they dive deeper into their plan, a sense of purpose solidifies between them. The tide is turning, and together, they're ready to face the storm that awaits. The tension in the air is thick as Valerie and Evan prepare for their final confrontation with Mark. They've set up a meeting at an abandoned warehouse, a place where they can lay everything on the line without interruptions. It's a risky move, but they're determined to take control of the situation once and for all. As they arrive at the warehouse, Valerie can feel her heart pounding in her chest. Are you sure about this? She asks, her nerves bubbling to the surface. Evan takes her hand, squeezing it reassuringly. We've come too far to back down now. We're ending this, Valerie. Inside the warehouse, the atmosphere is eerily quiet, the sound of their footsteps echoing off the walls. They've arranged for a few trusted allies to be present, ready to back them up if things go south. But as they step further inside, it feels like they've entered a lion's den. Mark waits for them, leaning casually against a stack of crates, his expression a mixture of amusement and arrogance. Well, if it isn't the lovebirds, he taunts, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Did you come to beg for mercy? Evan steps forward, his posture tense. We're here to end this once and for all, Mark. Your games are over. Mark chuckles, unfazed by their bravado. You think you can intimidate me? You really are naive. Valerie takes a deep breath, finding her voice. This isn't a game, Mark. You've threatened my life and tried to destroy what we have. We're not afraid of you anymore. His expression darkens, the playful facade slipping. You don't know what you're getting into. You're both in over your heads. Then let's settle this right now. Evan challenges, his voice steady. You've had your fun, but it ends here. With that, the tension snaps, and the atmosphere shifts from verbal sparring to a physical confrontation. Mark's eyes flash with anger as he lunges toward Evan, but Valerie steps in, determined to protect the man she loves. Get away from him, she shouts, pushing Mark back. Evan seizes the opportunity, using the moment of surprise to grapple with Mark. The two men engage in a fierce struggle, and Valerie feels her heart race as she watches them fight. Each blow exchanged sends shockwaves through her, fear clawing at her insides. As the fight intensifies, Valerie knows she can't just stand by. She grabs a nearby metal pipe, her heart pounding as she rushes toward them. Evan! She shouts, her voice ringing in the chaos. With a swift motion, she swings the pipe at Mark, hitting him squarely in the back. He stumbles forward, momentarily stunned, giving Evan the chance to gain the upper hand. Let's finish this, Evan grits out, adrenaline surging through him. Mark, realizing he's outnumbered, shoots them a furious glare. You'll regret this, both of you. This isn't over. He turns to flee, but Evan and Valerie are quick to block his path. You're not going anywhere, Evan declares, his voice filled with authority. Valerie stands beside him, her eyes fierce. You don't scare us, Mark. We're taking control of our lives, and you can't take that away from us. As Mark realizes the tide has turned against him, his bravado falters. You think you've won? He sneers. I'll always be a step ahead. This isn't the last you'll see of me. With that, he retreats, disappearing into the shadows of the warehouse. The adrenaline slowly begins to fade, leaving Valerie and Evan panting, their hearts racing from the confrontation. We did it, Valerie breathes, turning to Evan. We stood up to him. Evan pulls her into a tight embrace, relief flooding through him. I'm so proud. Through the city, Valerie receives a message that sends her heart racing. It's a photo of her taken from a distance, her face clear in the frame. The caption reads, "You think you're safe? You're just a pawn in my game." Panic floods her system, and she rushes to Evan's office. Bursting through the door, she finds him on the phone, his brow furrowed. When he sees her, he immediately hangs up, concern washing over his face. What's wrong? Valerie holds out her phone, her voice trembling. Look at this. Evan's expression darkens as he scans the message. He's watching us. We need to inform the authorities. No, Valerie protests, shaking her head. I don't want to involve them. They might make things worse. Valerie, this is serious. We can't take this lightly, Evan insists, his tone firm. If he's threatening you, we need to report it. She takes a deep breath, her emotions swirling. I know, but I don't want to feel helpless. I want to fight back on my own terms. Evan steps closer, his expression softening. I understand that, but we can't ignore this. We need to take every precaution. After a tense discussion, they agree to report the threat to the authorities while also implementing their own strategies for staying safe. As they file the report, Valerie feels a mix of frustration and determination. She refuses to let Mark control her life any longer. That night, they return to her apartment, the atmosphere heavy with unspoken fears. What if he's been watching us this whole time? Valerie asks, her voice barely above a whisper. We'll take it one step at a time, Evan assures her, wrapping his arms around her. Together, we'll face whatever comes next. Despite the fear lingering in her mind, Valerie feels comforted by Evan's presence. They settle into a routine of vigilance, checking in with each other frequently and remaining on high alert. As the weeks progress, Mark's threats escalate, and Valerie and Evan find themselves constantly on edge. The police investigation yields little, and Mark's elusiveness only adds to their frustration. They've managed to maintain some semblance of normalcy, but the underlying tension is always present. One night, as they sit together on the couch, Valerie's phone buzzes with a notification. It's an email from an anonymous account, containing only a single line. "Meet me at the old pier tomorrow at midnight. We need to talk." Her heart races, the anxiety crashing over her like a wave. "Evan, I got another message," she says, her voice trembling. "What does it say?" he asks, his eyes narrowing as he leans closer. She reads the message aloud, and Evan's expression hardens. "It's a trap, Valerie. You can't go." "But what if it's a chance to end this?" she counters, her determination flaring. "We can't keep running forever." Evan's frustration is palpable. And what if it's exactly what he wants? We can't give him the power to dictate our moves. Valerie stands her ground, her heart. "Valerie are relentless." "Not anymore," Evan declares, his voice steady as he blocks Mark's escape. "We're done living in fear." As the fight escalates, the sounds of their struggle echo across the pier. In a final move, Evan manages to tackle Mark to the ground, pinning him down. Valerie stands beside them, breathing heavily but filled with a sense of victory. "Let this be a warning," Evan says, his voice low but firm. "You will not threaten us again. We're stronger together, and we won't be your pawns." Mark glares up at them, his arrogance faltering. "You think you've won? You have no idea what I'm capable of." Valerie meets his gaze, her heart steady. "We're not afraid of you, Mark. You've lost your power over us." With that, they call the authorities, ensuring that Mark will face the consequences of his actions. As they wait for help to arrive, Valerie feels a weight lift off her shoulders. For the first time in months, she can breathe freely, knowing they've taken a stand. As dawn breaks, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Valerie and Evan stand together, hand in hand. The fight may not have been easy, but they've emerged victorious, their love stronger than the darkness that once surrounded them. Evan looks at her, pride shining in his eyes. "We did it, Valerie. Together." Tears well in her eyes, but they're tears of relief and joy. "Yes, together. I never want to face anything without you by my side." With their hands intertwined, they face the rising sun, ready to embrace a new beginning. Together, they've proven that love can conquer even the darkest of fears, and they're ready to build a future filled with hope, strength, and unwavering support for one another. As they walk away from the pier, leaving the shadows behind, Valerie knows that whatever challenges may come their way, they will face them together, stronger, united, and unafraid. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the story. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more delightful stories.